Hello, everybody. Welcome to my live today. It is Friday, February 20th, 2026, and the week has gone by very fast, but you only have 3 days left to buy the 2026 Vegan Health Bundle. Now, I've been talking about this health bundle all week long, so hopefully you've seen some of my other videos. But if this is new to you, this is an amazing collection of items. We have 70 different items, amazing cookbooks, cooking videos, personal journey books. We also have inspirational spiritual videos. Over $4,500 worth of merchandise, and it's yours for only $49. But you have to get the bundle before Sunday, February 22nd, because then this amazing collection of items will be gone. Now, all week long, I've had the pleasure of talking to different people who are in the bundle. And today, I have to say, is one of the interviews I have been waiting for the most, because we have some male energy in the bundle this year, some strong male energy, which is so exciting. Okay. So we're going to be talking with Nate Maris, who is Melissa Maris's husband, and I had a fantastic conversation with Melissa yesterday. And Nate has a couple things in the bundle. He has Crack, Spread, Repeat, which is a cookbook, amazing cookbook. I made one of his recipes. And he also has his personal journey, which is full Mast. And I have read the whole thing, such well put together thoughts. And I even took notes. I've got to talk to Nate about some of these things. Now, before I bring Nate on, I have to read you this. This drew me into Nate's cookbook. This is the dedication. This book is dedicated to the wild ones, the rebels, the souls who refuse to sit down, shut up, and swallow the lies. To the ones who look at the grocery store aisle full of fake, dead, chemical trash and say, nah, I can do better. I deserve better. Excuse me. To every human who's tired of being lied to, tired of being sick, tired of being robbed of their energy, their clarity, their blank in power, this book is for you. For the warrior who knows that real food is a weapon, that flavor is freedom, that life isn't meant to be half lived under a fog of processed poison. I love that, by the way, processed poison. This is for the snack rebel, the kitchen alchemist, the flavor anarchist. Welcome to the uprising. Crack, spread, repeat, rebel, reclaim, and rebuild. That is some fantastic writing. And that drew me into your book. It was amazing. Welcome, Nate. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Val. I'm glad that drew you in. And the anarchist, right? To rebel against this situation that we are having out there. It's so needed. We need to understand that we can take the power back in our own hands. So yeah, I've been really excited to connect with you, and your contribution is also another really powerful one in the bundle. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yes. So introduce yourself to everybody. Like, where do you live? What's your background? How long you've been vegan?
Okay, yeah. So my name is Nathan Maris, and I go by Raw Natty Nate on all my socials. And we're home based in Las Vegas. I've been a vegan since 2013, and I've been a raw foodie for just a little over 9 years. I just actually celebrated my 9-year raw anniversary on the 17th of this month, so just a couple days ago.
That's awesome. Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thank you.
And so we're going to talk about your cookbook, but first I want to talk about Full Mast, because writing your personal journey and getting personal and sharing aspects of what you did in this book is very important, yet can be very challenging. I can't tell you how many times, and I have different things saved everywhere, I've started to write, my journey, because everybody has a journey. It's so cool, but it's such an overwhelming task to put it all together. And you put it all together in such a way that um, you want people to pay attention to their body. That's one of my favorite things about what you wrote. You're always like, the hype is, be healthy, do this, but you were like, no, I'm going to pay attention. How do I feel after I eat this? So, a few things you can talk, but how did you have the courage to write this? How long did it take you to write this? And what has been the response so far? Is it in the bundle? Is this the release in the bundle?
Yeah, so this is the release. And I really appreciate that you took the time to read. And of course, yeah, it is tricky to share our journey and to share what we've gone through in a way that can hopefully captivate people's hearts and their, just to be able to understand that they can take the power back, right? So I've been working on this book. I've been kind of piecing stuff together over the last, like, I mean, I don't even know, probably at least 5 years. And I needed to have something to contribute to the bundle. And I started a men's group called Full Mast Empire. And we can get into the story a little bit of like how Full Mast has become kind of like a major part of my life. And Full Mast has to do with flying a flag, right? When you're flying a flag and it's at the top of the pole, that's full mast. If it's half mast in the countries, that means there's distress. The country's in distress. And there's a lot of people that are in distress out there. And so I started this men's group, Full Mast Empire, because a lot of guys, I feel like the negative connotation that is laid out in movies and maybe some songs, but mostly I feel like movies, is that vegans are like weaklings and, you're going to turn into an airy fairy and you're going to have crystals all over. And, I mean, I've been called a hippie my whole life, so it's nothing like new to me, but it's interesting because coming from like my background, I mean, to kind of just like go through my story real quick is I would have been vegan at 7 years old when I caught my very first fish with my grandpa and my uncle and my dad on the river. And my grandpa takes the hook out of the fish's mouth and puts the fish in a bucket and it's bleeding. And I was 7 years old and I was just worried about the fish and I couldn't fish anymore. I just was worried about that fish. Like I hurt the fish. Right. It was really exciting. Everybody's excited, when I'm reeling it in and the adrenaline was pumping and everything. And so then I was, they were like, cast it back out, Nate, you've got the catch, you've got the magic touch today. And I was like, no, I just, was worried about this fish. I'm like, I think he's hurt. And, he's like bleeding. And my grandpa's like, well, let's go clean him. And I'm like, clean him? Like he's in water, we can give him a bath or something. So we go up and, right over the kitchen sink, he guts it from, like mouth or from anus to the throat and tears out his guts. And I lost it as a kid. I started crying and I ran to the bathroom and I was like punching myself in the face, just like so mad that I killed this fish. And the rest of the night was kind of like the men in my life, my dad, my uncle, my grandpa, my great uncle, all kind of wiring in the switch, right? So I got the switch wired in to turn off that emotion. That's not the way that men are supposed to, feel. There's nothing to be sad about. Circle of life, provide for your own. You know how to take care of yourself. And I do really appreciate the aspect of being able to know how to read the river and know where the fish hang out. And if I had to catch a fish, I could catch a fish. So, but I would have been vegan right then if different family members, like say maybe the women, would have stood up and been like, they see that it's hurting me. If there was a vegan in the family, there was no vegans. And that's just, so the switch was installed. And it's kind of interesting because inherently my whole life, I had a really hard time with fish, like eating fish. And, but you just kind of turn it off. Yeah. And so we're so disconnected in so many ways. And then, you just, over time, we just get out of touch of ourself, like different aspects of ourself. Like we have to eat, right? And we know that we've been eating animal foods for eons. And processed foods are a lot of the problem that we're seeing with, health wise out there nowadays. It's not necessarily just animal foods, but it's how the animal foods are threaded in through these different products. And so, um, I met this guy. I started to ingest all this information about um, veganism later in my life, right? Is like, I didn't want to be a vegan, like I hunted, I fished, I've watched the life leave the animal's eyes as
Okay.
I'm, quartering up a deer, carrying chunks of deer meat out of the forest. And, the concept is to have good, healthy, lean,
Yeah.
wild meat, right?
Yeah.
And it's a skill set it's important, I feel like, in a way. But at the same time, when you start to look through a different lens that we don't necessarily need that,
Yeah.
it's tricky as men to let go of that. Like, we're going to lose some of our masculinity, we're going to lose some of our power or something if we aren't killing something. Or there's a lot of people who don't hunt or fish. And so I started to ingest the information about veganism a bit more, and I watched some documentaries and kind of get back in touch with that side of myself. And that's when I started to basically just make that connection. Like, I ought to switch it up. Like, there's no need. You start to ingest the different information about plants, the power of plants, the amino acids. All the 9 essential amino acids are in the plants in different amounts. Like, if you eat enough plants, you're going to be fine. And so I'm like, wow, if I were to really be in touch with my heart space, I don't want to be eating meat. I don't want to vote for that. And what it's doing to my vascular system, right? Cholesterol and saturated fats and these sorts of things. It's like, I don't want to play that game anymore. So yeah, it's the full Mast, it ties in because my mom was going through her health crisis, and I was working in the medical field. I worked with old age patients and Alzheimer's patients, and I worked in a cardiac unit in nursing for years, and all throughout the different units in the hospital. I worked in medical, as a medical assistant for pulmonary and endocrinology, people who have diabetes and people who can't oxygenate. Their breathing is they're not oxygenated. They're not getting enough oxygen when they breathe in it. They have to have a machine, a CPAP or a BiPAP. And all of these things started to just kind of like compile into my head, veganism aside, because veganism has nothing to do with the diet. It's an ethical stance against the exploitation of animals in our environment. But looking at the plant-based nutrition aspect, I'm like, wow, a lot of these people, this is preventable stuff.
Yes.
If we were to embody this information and release the dogma and release our bias that we've been told our whole life, we have to basically like unwire the switch, right? And so I'm wrapping my head around raw food nutrition, raw and living foods. And I'm starting to I'm taking it in, because sometimes it's hard for us to just take in the information, especially as, I mean, I want to say just as guys, like, women have the problem with taking in information too, because we can be so stuck in our bias, right? But I feel like it's especially tricky for men. And so I'm taking this information in, and I was riding this lift, the ski lift with this guy. I'm riding.
This is such an amazing story.
Oh, I'm glad you like. So I'm riding this ski lift with. Well, I mean, to tell you, like, I mean, really a huge aspect was my mom's going through her crisis. She had kidney cancer, had the kidney removed conventionally, didn't get radiation or anything like that, and they botched that whole situation up. 7 years later, she gets cancer in her other kidney, and that's when she started to kind of tap into. We were like, let's send you to Gerson. Gerson, if you guys aren't familiar with Gerson, check out. That's a great center. It's, they've had success helping people. But the protocol that she was following through the Gerson was so intense, like 7 coffee enemas a day, 13 cold pressed juices a day, lots of supplements. And I was like, I don't want to live like that. I'm a fairly healthy man. Like, I don't, but I understood, like, my joke would be, if we swallow our own saliva, like I'll do right now, I just swallowed, right? If we swallow our own saliva for like 50 years, we'll probably end up getting cancer, because everybody's getting cancer.
Yeah.
It's like unavoidable. It seemed as if, with the mindset, just to be kind of having a light joke about it. And my mom she's like, I'm already healed. I just need to do the work. And I was like, man, mom, that's a powerful mindset. You know, you put your order in, it's coming, it's on its way. So that was a huge aspect of me kind of recalibrating the way that I was thinking about things. And she was really frustrated because she was also, you know, a nurse for most of her life. And she's like, I taught you guys the wrong way. And oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. And we ate just the standard American stuff, boxed foods, lots of dairy and, you know, and just processed meats, bologna and hot dogs and all the crap.
Yep.
And I was skiing this one day, right? And the guy's skiing single, you know, he hops on the lift with me and he's like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm a medical assistant right now. You know, I used to work in a cardiac unit and this and that, you know, my mom, you know, this and that, raw and living foods. And he's like, yeah, I reversed my stage 4 colorectal cancer at the age of 42. I've been a raw foodie ever since for 44 years. And I'm like, dude, you know, I'm doing my math. I'm like, you're 86 years old. Like, holy cow, we're going up this Black Diamond run, which is like, you know, a more difficult run. And he's a skier. I'm a snowboarder. So I wasn't able to ride down with him because I strapped up my boot. He was just gone. But on that lift, he's like, if you are what you eat, what do you want to be? And I was like, well, I want to be like you. I want to be vibrant and alive and like, you know, up here when I'm 86 years old. This is what I want to do. It's my dream to be able to ski with my grandkids. And I'm heading down a road, even as at the time I was vegan. I'm heading down a road eating a lot of these vegan processed foods and just, you know, not the best healthy foods. I'm not necessarily gaining any kind of health because, you know, vegan doesn't mean healthy, right? Like there's a
Right.
lot of vegan foods out there that are
Yep.
maybe they're accidentally vegan or they're just processed transitional foods. And some people don't care about health. They just want to eat.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to, you know, vote for animal exploitation. So anyways, we're on the lift and as a guy, you know, I'm like, how's the flagpole? You know? And he's like, because I know many people at the time I was turning 40 that year. I was 39. It was in February 16th, this was of 2017. And he's like, full mast. Because I know friends that have issues in that department. Like we have a circulatory system, we've got plumbing in our body, and if we have thick blood and we've got endothelial damage, we're clogging up our arteries. The things that's going to show the signs the first are going to be the smaller piping. And the piping going to our reproductive organs are very small. They're like a coffee stir stick, as opposed to like a big smoothie straw. That's the one going to our aorta is like very big, right? So I noticed within myself, I was having issues in this department. And I knew multiple other people who were also having issues in this department. And, you know, we'd go camping with my buddies and, you know, we'd talk about, and the joke is like, well, you know, I'm getting older, it's gonna be the way it is, you know, we're gonna have to take da 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 da. And as I ask him this, how's the flagpole? And he's like, full mast. And I just that was what clicked for me. I was like, son of a, I gotta do this. I need to become someone who eats raw and living foods for the predominant source of their calories. I must do this. I want something different for myself. And I'd been ingesting information for years. So I'd already been kind of wiring it in. So that's where full mast comes from, is basically that ride. Like he had good blood flow as an 86-year-old. I mean, making love is one of the most amazing things that we can do as a human. And I don't want to not be able to do that, you know? So that's where full mast came from, is just, you know, that was a big part of my story. Is this guy was 86 years old, reversed his stage 4 colon cancer with raw foods at 42. And here I am getting to be 40. So that night, February 16th, I went home, binged watched YouTube, how to be a raw vegan, how to be, you know, can you be a bodybuilder at raw vegan? Not that I'm like a bodybuilder, but I wanted to know, you know, as a guy, like, you know, am I going to wither away? Am I going to turn into a girl or something? Rather, you know, not that girls are weak. Girls are very, very powerful, more powerful than men. And that's a whole topic for another thing. But it was that night that I found Lissa on YouTube and Raw Food Romance. And I loved her energy, just like the way that she'd present information and just her way of delivering it. And she had a meal plan. And I was like, that's what I need. I need a meal plan. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't want to do what my mom's doing. And I don't want to be like a fruitarian eating mono meals. I had 80-10-10, and I knew who Robert Morris was and John Rose and all these people. You start to ingest, the algorithm sends you more of this information. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of that kind of stuff. Like, I just want to eat food, but I want to eat healthy food. And I like making food. I don't mind making stuff in the kitchen, of course, like we did canning and pickling, and I liked baking my whole life, that kind of stuff, making recipes, and of course, barbecuing and all that kind of stuff. Like, some people just don't like making food, but I enjoyed it. So that's why I wanted a meal plan. So I bought Lissa's meal plan, her volume 1 30-day meal plan. And I was like, all right, she's got breakfast, lunch, and dinner in there, 3 different recipes for each day. And there's 30 days, and none of the recipes are the same. So that's 90 recipes. The book was like $14. And I was like, that's a screaming deal. But the most important part about this book was she had written down the tools that I need. And so I was like, oh, I got to watch a video. What tools do I need? Oh my gosh, I need a Vitamix. That's like $500. And I'm like, why can't I just go to Walmart and get a $30 blender? Right. And I mean, if you've ever used a $30 blender, those things really suck. So I was like, all right, I'm going to buy a Vitamix. I'm going to buy a food processor. I'm going to get a dehydrator. I'm going to get all the tools that I need because I want to set myself up for success. This is an investment into my health. I bought that book, and she had the ingredient list in there for all the recipes. So I knew what to get at the store. So I could go into the store and just shop like a pro, and all the calorie breakdown was there. So I knew I was going to get enough nutrition, because that's another really big thing, that we have kind of promoted as, people who watch anything is like, oh, veganism, you're going to die. It's not going to be healthy. And, vegans always this and that, so, but I was like, hey, it's all about calories. As long as we're getting, the nutrition, and if we can track it and we can see that we're hitting our numbers, we're going to be set. We're going to be fine. We need to release this dogma that we have to have animal foods into our life to be a healthy human being. And I followed that recipe book. And after like a couple, I brought my duffel bag with my Vitamix, my cutting board, my knife, my dates and lemons and garlic with me to work every day at the hospital. And I would make a big, huge bowl of salad with a fresh dressing, dates, garlic, lemon juice, smoked pap, and some water. And I'd be eating my big, delicious salad before my coworkers would get back from the cafeteria or the taco trucks. And I was just seeing like, wow, it's so interesting. We don't want to take the time. It takes too much time, but yet I'm making this food and I'm eating like before them. And this is healthy food. So people were like, hey, I want to get your food. Like, can you make me a salad? Can you make me some banana ice cream? I learned how to make banana ice cream, so it was an amazing transition those first few months. And after those, like a good 3 months, I felt like a pro. It was easy to go shopping. It was easy to do this lifestyle, and I felt good.
I'm going to stop you there, Nate, just
Yeah.
because your love story with Melissa is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But before you get into your love story with Melissa, I just wanted to add a few things because we have so much in common. I'm here in Michigan, and I grew up with grandpa, uncle, dad. Deer season was a holiday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that was I love your story about the fish. But one of the things that happened to me is I had, my uncle and my dad and my grandpa, deer season, and I love the outdoors. And grandma and grandpa had a farm up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, 1,000 acres.
Wow.
So deer season, when I was young, I would just go up there and hang out like in the house because I just wanted to be up at the farm. And then when I was about 12 or 13 or whatever, we would go out, we would do what's called drag the swamp, where there would be a line of us and we would just walk across the swamp and we would push the deer out. I didn't know what I was doing. I was having fun. I was walking in the woods and I was hanging out. And my uncle shot a deer. And I didn't see him gut it, thank God, or whatever, but we had to walk back to the farmhouse with a trail of blood. And that's something I will always remember, is seeing that trail of blood, because up until then I was just hanging out in the woods, hanging out with my dad and my grandpa and my uncle, and I was having fun. But at a certain point, you put it together. But I actually did not become vegan until my early 20s. After discovering macrobiotics, I read Diet for New America. That did it. And you know what? I'm one of those people, like those movies that you talk about, and there's lots of great movies that will turn people vegan, but I can't watch them. All I did was read a book, and the book describes the horrible conditions, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to see it. It's right here. I can read it. I don't need to see it, you know? And my idea, like, because you do have so many people, and I always tell people it's a personal choice if you want to be vegan or not. My reason is I cannot look an animal in the eye and kill it. I can't. Therefore, my truth is I can't eat animal flesh. I cannot look an animal in the eye. I see their soul. I can't kill it. So I became vegan. Like, you know, I've been teaching classes for 29 years. So it's over 30 years, because I apprenticed in a macrobiotic cooking school. And I have so much energy. I have more energy than my friends who are like 10 years younger than me, which is great. But I also want to go out and hike. And in Michigan, I like to go ice skating and snowshoeing. I don't have anybody to do that with, because a lot of them are aches and pains. Although I do have some friends that go hiking with me, which is wonderful. But we had that in common, and I thought that was so unique. And your story about the guy that you met on the ski lift, I just love that. That was spiritual intervention. I don't know if that was an angel or what it was, but there is no such thing as a coincidence. And that was absolutely amazing. And there is no such thing as a coincidence. I'm just going to briefly tell that the reason why I went macrobiotic is when I was a little girl, I had a crush on the TV actor Dirk Benedict. Do you remember Dirk Benedict from the team?
From
No.
what?
The A-Team?
Okay. Yes. Remind me who he was.
He was Face. He was Face.
Okay.
In the
Yeah,
A-Team.
I remember him. Yeah, yeah. He was. Yep. Okay. I totally remember.
But I actually fell in love with him in Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, okay.
And I knew he had prostate cancer, and he healed himself from prostate cancer, and he wrote a book about it, even when I was a young girl. And then when I got old enough, you know, in my early or my late teens, early 20s, I would go into bookstores and I would ask them for this book that he wrote. Nobody knew what I was talking about. Well, I found out later from, you know, Dirk Benedict interviews and stuff, the publisher took his book off the market, because it was, you can't talk about that. You can't talk about a natural way to heal yourself from cancer. And he also got blacklisted in Hollywood, and he couldn't talk about his journey. So a few years later, I went into a health food store. I was visiting a friend who worked there, and there on the bookshelf was this book that I had been looking for years, Confessions of a Kamikaze Cowboy. And it's his journey of how he healed himself from prostate cancer. And it introduced me to macrobiotics, which is the energy of the food. Yes. I was so immediately drawn to the energy of the food. Again, I was quite young when this happened, but now that I'm older and everything, I'm an empath. I feel energy, and it all like led me. There is no such thing as a coincidence. It all like led me on this journey. And I was like, oh, I have to find out more about this thing called macrobiotics. And then in 1994, he came to Michigan and he gave a lecture, and I got my picture taken.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah. And I framed this and I put this on the wall, and this was before they charged. You know, he goes to Comic-Cons now, and you have to pay a huge amount of money, and then you have to pay to meet and greet him. This is before that. I paid for the lecture, and he was talking all about cancer. And then I said to him, you know, can I get my picture taken with you and get your autograph? And I told him, I go, I'm framing this and putting it on my wall. And I think he kind of looked surprised. This has been hanging on my wall since 1994. And here's his autograph.
So cool.
But I should have had the wherewithal to have him sign this book.
Right.
I didn't, because this was his new book that he was, and it's called And Then We Went Fishing. Like you just mentioned
Wow.
fishing, and he talks about fishing with his dad in this book. Yeah.
Wow.
So there's like just really cool stuff. You're talking and telling your story, and I'm like, oh, this is just really cool, you know?
I
And
love that.
so, yeah. So I have in the bundle Cancer Healing and Prevention with Macrobiotic Principles. And
Huge.
it's 4 videos. Each video is 2 hours long. This is a class I taught last year and a 65-page booklet. And it talks about what is macrobiotics, because a lot of people don't know. It talks about the energy of the food. And then I have some wonderful recipes in there, healing recipes. And I also go into the energy of your thoughts, your words, how you create your energy, how that envelops your overall health, which your book, Full Mast, I thought really went into that really good, how you described how you felt when you ate food. That was fantastic. And then my biggest success story is my dad. Just like, well, your mom kind of showed you, but I showed my dad. So about 20 years ago, my dad had prostate cancer. And when he told the family, I said, well, what do you want to do? I will help you and mom if you want. And he said, yes. And so I went out there and taught them how to cook the miso soup and the macrobiotics and the energy of the food. And my dad went strict, macro vegan, strict. And at the time, he told his doctor that's what he was going to do. And his doctor went, well, you can do that, but that won't make any difference. He
Yeah.
proved him wrong. He
I
proved
love
him wrong. He didn't use any medical intervention at all. Nothing. He did it all with food. He did just, well, your mom is a prime example of that too. And I just love the healing stories. And also too, though, is that it's an example. And I go over that in the classes too, that there are many different paths to healing a dis-ease such as cancer. Macrobiotics is my background. Raw vegan is your background. And there's success stories in both ways. And I mean, the body has the natural ability to heal itself. Some people have such strong faith,
Yeah.
they can heal their body with their faith. And to me, that's the most amazing thing ever, because we've heard of those stories too. But there's just so many different paths to healing your body from dis-ease. And Nate's mom is an example. My dad is an example. And yeah, so I just wanted to bring up those points that are similar. And I saw you and Melissa's interview on Chris Beats Cancer, which is a YouTube channel, which everybody should go check that out. And Nate and Melissa told the story of how they met. Oh my God, I had a permanent smile on my face the whole time I was listening to the story. And then Melissa shared a little bit about it yesterday, which was so awesome. And she said, now I have to ask you if this is true. I don't know, because you were following her on YouTube, you were watching her videos and everything. And then she said that you had a mutual friend who ended up introducing you. And she said, like, one of the first message you sent her was like, oh, hi, Melissa. Oh my God, I love you. Blah, 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 blah. And I was like, the first message Nate sent you was, oh my God, I love you. And she goes, well, he was following all my videos and I had helped him heal. And I go, well, that's wonderful and everything, but that's a pretty powerful first message, if it was your first message, because eventually you guys got married and you were like the beautiful power raw couple. And I just love your pictures on Instagram when you guys celebrated your anniversary. I mean, and you guys work together, you eat the same food. I mean, that's just kismet. And again, no such thing as a coincidence. I think it was written in the stars. I think it was written in destiny that you guys were to come together. So I don't know if did you want to add any more about your journey and Melissa, and was that really in the first message you sent her?
Yeah, no, that's so good. And thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, I have family in Gaylord, Michigan, actually. And I know multiple states are kind of the same, where the hunting is this, it is a full celebration. You know, we look forward, hunters look forward to it all year long. And
Yep.
there's a lot of bonding that happens, you know, like men get together with their dads, and they bring their sons. And so there's deep rooted things there. And how you said, you know, that stuck with you, seeing that blood trail. And your story is fantastic. I can't wait to dig into your book as well. 8 hours of classes essentially is going to be so powerful, because I'm I'm on this mission. And that's what's so cool about being with Lissa. And of course, yeah, if you guys want to see, you know, for those watching in, like, you can see our very first interview, because I went to Woodstock Fruit Festival and I met one of our mutual friends, which was Jack Albright. And I would watch Jack's videos and I would watch Lissa's videos. I didn't really watch too many other YouTube videos, but Jack was just a good old boy, and he just had simple, you know, bananas and mangoes. And I was like, all right, I can do that. And then Lissa had more like fun meals, like, you know, to do, we're going to do some, you know, spiralized cucumbers and some marinara sauce. I was like, that looks good for dinner. So yeah, following her book, 7 months goes by. I shed like nearly 70 pounds. And I've always been kind of, you know, I'm just one of those people that has the microbiome that it's easier for me to gain weight, and especially the foods that I eat. Some people have a really hard time gaining weight, not me. I've always been someone who's really easy to gain weight. So it wasn't like I was trying to lose the weight. I just wanted to be healthier, but I lose this weight. People are thinking that I'm doing like speed or something. They're like, what is going on? Like, we're worried about you, you know, while they're smoking a cigarette and drinking a, you know, a beer or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm just eating raw and living foods. And like you said, the energy, and everything is energy, and diet is only one spoke of the wheel. Like you said too, you know, we have all these other spokes that we really ought to be focused on trying to balance. And it's the life, our lives are constantly juggling and balancing. Once you get this kind of dialed in, maybe you adjust over here a little bit. It's not just diet, and energy is everything. I love how Nikola Tesla said, if you want to think in terms of energy, or if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yep.
Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. And so then when you look at food and how the food is made or prepared or whatever it may be, that's energy that we're putting into our body. And so I really am a firm believer in energy. And it's hard not to when you start to tap into all the different aspects of what's fun to learn. And there's a lot of things, like when you touched upon the story of meeting Face, I can't remember his name. What's his name again?
Dirk Benedict.
Yeah, Dirk Benedict. And how he was shut down, he was blacklisted, because there is a malevolent force. I mean, everything is yin and yang, right?
Yep.
Like, we need to have that, but there's a strong malevolent force that really is bound and determined on keeping us disconnected from ourselves, and understanding that there's, you know, our true power and our true potential, like understanding the faith and the energy and these sorts of things, right?
Absolutely.
And if the hospitals don't have full beds, the rooms aren't full, they're not making money.
Yep.
It's a money making thing. And, you know, you break your arm, of course, it's you know, good to have the hospital. But it's so fascinating how the information isn't there. The doctors don't even really know. They don't want to pump it because that infringes on their income. It's just like, take this, you know, oh, you know, those are the symptoms. Well, we've got something that'll combat that symptom, and then you're going to need a couple things that are going to, you know, affect the side effects from this. It's just a mess. Yes. When we could just go back to something so simple as to understand how the body works. And we're learning so much nowadays, of course. Like, it's really neat to see all these different sciences coming out, because, you know, back in the day, people didn't know, they didn't have devices. I mean, very potentially way long ago, maybe we were far more advanced than we are right now, wiped ourselves out, who knows.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have, like, you know, things like Ayurveda and different Eastern medicines. And so it's like, well, they had problems back then too, and they were trying to figure it out. And they would, not to say that Ayurvedic is like, you know, nonsense or anything, but it's very interesting. They didn't understand the microbiome, right? These sorts of things. And so they would say, oh, you know, that's pitta energy because, you know, you're feeling this way or this, that. And it's just interesting how we've always wanted to understand what is making us feel the way that we're feeling, the discomfort that we have. And none of us are going to be able to have all the answers, of course, right? Like it's just a constant evolution of things. But what we do see is the energy, the thoughts. I love how you tapped into that, because I've made some videos and I'll do some talks about that as well. Like we have to really be careful with our energy. What are we
Yes.
ingesting? What kind of stuff are we paying attention to? Because there's a lot
Yes.
of stuff, especially nowadays, we can be inundated with
Yes.
way more than we're even equipped to handle. And so we really have to be careful with that. And it's just fascinating too, like how you also touched upon, there's not a lot of people that you can go rally with and go skating with, because they're living just not the greatest quality of life from the choices that they've made throughout the majority of their life, right? And so with Lissa, I followed her. I did, man. I fell in love with her. I mean, I was married for 19 years with my ex for 25 years. Got together with when I was 15, and we actually, got a divorce when I was 40. And raw foods was a really big catalyst to that, because there was, and, of course, that story is a story for its own time, and it wasn't just like, oh, I went raw and I wanted a divorce. I mean, there's a lot of buildup, and we lived a
Yes.
lifetime together. But I had thought, like, man, how cool would it be to be with someone like Lissa? She is so incredible. And I was really just enthused with the concepts of what raw and living foods can do for us. Like that's, and of course it says in the Bible, right? This is your food. It's like, oh, we've been so far removed from nature in so many ways, and then of course the energy, when you tap into that and you kill something and you eat that, and that kind of energy. And I don't know. I mean, it's very fascinating stuff, but it can be so overwhelming for a lot of people. And I feel like having a plan or something like the vegan health bundle to tap into, where you just follow the recipe. It's going to be a good recipe. It's going to be a plant-based recipe. You can't go wrong. And then of course, you can watch other people's interviews, like your education, the different doctors and their talks, to kind of, because the whole goal of the vegan bundle or the work that we do or the work that you do is to help, don't worry about it, is to help the average individual make the connection, and just to include more plants into their life. They don't have to be a vegan. They don't have to be a raw foodie. But, if we're eating more plants, we're going to feel better. 100%. Cut out processed foods. We don't need the processed foods. It's just a bunch of junk. And then, of course, we feel so empowered when we're making our own food. And that's where I was feeling. I was feeling empowered that I was making my own food following Lissa's book. And when we did that interview, that YouTube interview, actually before the interview, I got back from Woodstock and I was super excited. And I messaged her and I was like, oh my gosh, Lissa, I love you. I did say that. I'm like, I love you so much. Thank you so much for creating the book and doing the work that you do. You've helped change my life. And, showed her my before and after picture and told her my story. And I was just all hyped up on the festival energy. Right. And I was like, oh, she's like famous. She's, she probably gets messages from people and dudes all the time. She's not going to message me back. But Jack messaged her and was like, you should interview this guy as a testimony for your book, because he had a really great success with your just following your book. I just followed her recipe. Like essentially Lissa, in a lot of ways, I mean, I knew who Tanny Raw was. Tanny Raw was a person in the raw food world, years back. I don't think she's really doing much stuff now, but I would eat some of her recipes. I would eat like Jack, but Lissa's tasted the best. It tasted the best. And I was like, this is the kind of food that I want to eat. So that really is, there's the saying, like, if you want to, win, a way to a man's heart is through his stomach or whatever,
Yeah.
so like, that's 100% how I felt. And so I messaged her and she messaged me back and was like, oh, I'd love to interview you. And, at that time I was split with my ex, and of course, I wanted to woo her. Right. And I was, so we did this event in Vegas. We became like best friends. Like we did that interview for her YouTube channel. And then after that, she texted me back, and that's a good sign when the girl's texting you back, right? And I was like, well, we just kept talking through text on Instagram until like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Wow.
And then the next day, she messages me, the first message of the day. We probably only got like 6 hours of sleep, and I was like, oh my gosh, Raw Food Romance is messaging me. This is so incredible, because I was just a fan of hers. I was a fanboy, right? So, yeah, and then our story is just it's fun. It's just really fun how it works out. And of course, yeah, there is no coincidences. I didn't mention about the ski trip. The last thing that dude said, John, his name was John. That's the only thing I got. I should have got his number. I would have loved to hang out with him. But he lifted up his goggles and he looks right into my eyes, just pierces into my soul and was like, "You should listen to your mom, Nate." Because
Yeah,
I was like,
I remember you saying that. Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm like, I'm gonna do what you're doing, mom. I'm gonna listen to you. We all should listen to our moms, especially if they love us, right? And he told me you should listen to your mom, Nate. And then he took off the lift, and I had to sit down and get my boots strapped up. And I tried to catch up with him. It was kind of a stormy day, so I don't know. He was gone, and I wonder, like, was he even real? Was that a
Did,
real person?
did you mention your mom at all during the conversation?
I did. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I told him about what my mom went through and what, she's doing. She, healed her kidney cancer with fasting and raw and living foods. And that's when he told me about his story. Yep.
Yeah.
So that was a huge part. That's what he started the conversation. Like, what do you do? Everybody wants to know, what do you do for work? Right.
Right.
And I was still just like in the place in my mind, like, I don't want to be a raw foodie. I don't want to do this. I'm kind of resisting it, right? Like I like my chips and hummus and I like my bread, So, but after meeting him, the story of my mom and then meeting him and the full Mast aspect, all of it just clicked. And I was like, I have to do this. This is something I have to do. And now, being with Lissa, we are very fortunate that we are on the same page together. We have the same mission in life. We have the same morals. We have the same, we practice essentially the same religion. Because like this diet is, I can see the threads and the crossover between something like being a vegan and, following a religion. It is very, similar in a lot of ways. And it can be really tricky. But it's so nice that we have the same mission in life, which is to help the average individual just see the power of in the healing power of raw foods. And of course, the mindset is so huge. It's a huge aspect, how we talk to ourselves. Because they say 95% of our thoughts are subconscious. We don't even really think about them.
Yeah.
Right. And out of this 95%, 75% of those thoughts are negative and redundant. It's this negative loop and that's another very interesting aspect of our design. Like, where did that programming come from? That also seems like a malevolent force that has threaded itself through mankind to make us be in that frame where we have these negative and redundant thoughts. So it can be really tricky to not talk bad about ourselves or to not put ourselves first, to not have the faith. So yeah, it's fascinating stuff, all these kinds of things.
Okay, stuff to add. This is just such a great, interesting conversation. Okay, so yes, your thoughts. I talked with Reverend Dina and MQ, who have something in the bundle, The Inner Life of Vegan Health. These two ladies are very spiritual and they help people and they do energy healing and they're just sweet ladies. And so during that conversation, we were talking about energy and we were talking about words. I shared this with them. I'll share it with you. So you create everything with your thoughts, words, and deeds. I learned this many years ago, and I didn't write down the date of when I did this, but I realized that the words that you speak are what you create. And I would say it had to have been about 15 years ago. I dedicated myself to never, ever say this again. Now, I'm going to tell you what it is because I have to tell you what it is, but I do not say this, and I haven't said this for 15 years. I am tired. I stopped saying it. And I purposely set that goal to never, ever say that again. Because I realized that when you go up to someone and you're like, hi, so-and-so, what's going on? How are you? Almost all the time, people will respond, I am tired. And it dawned on me like, I was saying it too back then. And I'm like, well, that's just going to create you being tired. Because whatever you put after I am is very powerful. You create it. And I purposely stopped saying that. I won't say it to this day. And again, like we talked about earlier, I seem to have this abundance of energy. And sometimes, like, I'm a chef, I cook for a living. People don't even realize sometimes I am literally on my feet for 13 hours cooking.
Mm.
And I will get done and I'll want to go to bed, sure, because I just worked really long time, but I still won't say those words. It's just very, very powerful, the words that you say, that you create. And then you mentioned sourdough and hummus. Now I'm telling you, you and Lissa, your next thing you got to create is raw bread, I guess, because I adore bread. I love bread. And of course, when I went all healthy, I eat healthy bread. And one of my favorite things in the bundle is Chef Julia Dunaway's whole wheat sourdough bread class. Now, I have been one of my first jobs, actually, my second job, I was a manager at a French bakery and restaurant, and we made bread from scratch. It wasn't sourdough, but I have a history of making bread. And my mom used to have a sourdough starter on her counter. She made sourdough bread. So about 5 years ago, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I got my mom's old cookbooks. I made my own starter. And when I was apprenticing at the Macrobiotic Cooking School, she also had a sourdough starter. And as her assistant, it was my job to feed it. And I did make sourdough bread then. But I went ahead and made some. But I must say that my bread, although I think it's delicious, was always quite heavy. So I use Chef Julia's techniques in her video. And it's all explained. I love visual learning because she shows you what is the bread supposed to look like now and everything and along the stuff. And her technique was something I had never seen before. So I made her loaf of bread. It's almost gone.
Oh, I love it.
Been eating it. So delicious. Yeah, I cannot say enough about Chef Julia Dunaway's whole wheat sourdough class. And I made your Crimson Crush hummus with beets. So I did have some of your hummus on some of my sourdough bread.
Oh, so good. I love sourdough.
Yeah, your picture on the cover of your cookbook shows this, and it's bright red. It's such a beautiful picture. Mine's a little pink, but that's okay because pink is my color. But I used a can of chickpeas where yours were soaked. So I just adjusted it a little bit. And you probably had more beet in yours to make yours like
probably
bright red.
Yeah.
Some of the other things I made, I love fresh turmeric root. I love fresh turmeric. And it's in my miso soup and my cancer healing, what I had in the bundle. So Chef Mark Reinfeld has 20 oil-free sauce recipes. So I made his tahini turmeric sauce.
Oh, so good.
I put fresh turmeric root in it. I have to admit, I've made this recipe twice because I ate the first batch. And I did fermented turmeric root. I never thought of fermenting turmeric root.
So delicious.
This is the fermented Eat Your Way to Health fermented food, Nicole Fugelman. The whole book is fermented food. Oh my God, it smells amazing too.
Yeah.
You and Lissa have that too, but I adore fermented food. I just packaged I make my sauerkraut in this big, huge crock. I just packaged a bunch of it.
I love it.
This is my miso soup, and the miso soup has specific ingredients, all has strong anti-cancer properties. And I made Lori Laundrie's brownies.
Dang it, man. I want to like get off this live and come drive over to your place. Jeez. Oh,
that'd be a long drive.
Yeah, it sure would.
I shared with Lissa, I made the black licorice out of Chef AJ and Melissa's, what's it called? Raw?
Make it raw.
Make it raw. Yes. And so the the texture is like licorice.
I hate black licorice. And I know we got to be careful with our words, but I could never stand black licorice ever. But that is the only licorice I've ever been like, I need more. It is so good.
Now, and then when I talked to Melissa yesterday, I didn't realize that the technique books that you guys have, she has a recipe for tempeh. I looked at that last night because I adore tempeh. And
Mm.
here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, there is a place that makes fresh tempeh. It's
Oh,
probably
nice.
different than your guys' recipe, but that fresh tempeh is one of my favorite foods. It's so delicious. So I looked at the recipe, and you got to follow the instructions, but to have a recipe to make tempeh in that, I mean, okay, so you need to tell everybody all of the things that you and Lissa have in the bundle, and then what are some of your favorite things in the bundle?
Okay, that's great. Gosh, you have an amazing counter right there with all those foods. I'm like, oh man, I wish you were closer because I would be like, all right, we're coming over. I want some of
Okay.
that bread with the hummus. Yeah. So the raw vegan culinary techniques and the tempeh, that is so cool that you tapped into that, because that is something that we just started to kind of incorporate into our lives a few years ago. We went to a farmer's market, and there's this place called San Diego Tempeh, and he had unpasteurized tempeh. So we're like, oh, this is still a raw food. Essentially, it's a living food, right? So we started to incorporate that into our life when we would buy it from him. And it always, so I was like, we need to get a Instapot so we can make our own tempeh. And so we've been playing around with tempeh for the last couple of years, and we don't make it all the time. Of course, we need to make some more. Lissa's like, we need to make some more tempeh. I'm like, yeah, definitely. It's so nice to add to the salads, or do a raw burger with just tempeh patted, or put it in the wraps, or whatever. Just, it's so dang delicious. Um, so yeah, what we contributed to this year's vegan health bundle is, I've got my brand new full Mast book in there, the Crack Spread Repeat cracker book, which there's cheese recipes and multiple dip recipes in there. It's a really fun book. And then she has her Make It Raw 4 with Chef AJ collaboration book there with that licorice recipe, super delicious. And then we also have her brand new, Alyssa created that raw vegan culinary techniques
Mhm.
book with 55 recipes in there. Then she has her sushi book, which I'm kind of biased. Like, I would buy the bundle just for the sushi book alone, and you get the other books for bonus. Let's see. And we have one more. I'm trying to think what it is. What it is. How do I not know? There was 6 things that we did. I'm drawing a blank on the other one right now. But either way, I am really looking forward to, well, after you were saying you wanted to reach out, do a live. I was like, all right, who's Val? And then I see your book in there. I haven't tapped in and watched any of the classes yet, but I'm really looking forward to tapping into that. And of course, Mark, anytime as a chef, any kind of chefs, I feel like it's nice to be able to see what other people are doing and try some of their recipes. So I'm really looking forward to his book. I love Yin's Chinese takeout book, and that's one of the raw contributions. Our friend Chris Kendall has his book in there. It is what he makes when he does his retreats, all these different dishes that he makes there, which are, definitely really delicious, and of course they're all raw, which is nice. I'm really looking forward to watching some of the speaks, or the
Lectures.
presentations. Yeah, the presentations, again, the lectures from the plant powered party, which we attended this last year with Chef AJ. But there was some of the lectures that we didn't get to actually sit and watch. So that's a really powerful one too. And I'm really looking forward to also tapping into Chef Julia's book as well, and like the breads, because I really do miss bread. I used to make sourdough. I had the sourdough starter on our counter as well. We would make the sourdough bread. We do baguettes and all these kinds of things. And I had a friend who made some sourdough not too long ago. It was actually at the plant powered party. She brought some bread with her, and I had a couple slices of that. And I'm like, gosh, I really would like to incorporate some of that back into my life as well. Because there is so many different ways to live life, and life should be fun. And I'm not kind of a person that wants to stick myself in a box, right?
Yep.
And not to say that that's like a bad thing for other people who want to remain in the box that they've created for themselves, but we create these boxes for ourselves. And my awakening kind of came, I was 7 years raw. Like, I never have said that I'm 100% raw, but I was strictly raw. No cooked food, no heat processed foods in any way, no steamed anything. And I had a dental procedure done, and I was like, I need to. it was hard to chew, and I would do raw soups and smoothies, but I was like, I really I really miss steamed broccoli. So I had some steamed broccoli. And then I went on a trip with my son, did a hike. We did the Colorado Trail together, backpacking, and I stayed as raw as I could on that trail. I did cold soaks where you just take your meal and you put water in it and you hike. And then when you stop, you're able to just eat the meal. Well, one night it was snowing and he had a stove and I had him heat up some water so I could use the hot water to put in my cold soak. And I had that meal, it was warm. And that was the moment where I was like, why am I not eating some of these warm foods that I really miss that are still really healthy, beneficial foods? Like I started to kind of just go through my mind, like, I really miss steamed vegetables and I miss cooked lentils. You know, you can sprout them and you can freeze them and thaw them and they're going to be delicious, but a cooked lentil is still different than a sprouted, frozen and thawed lentil, different texture. And it's still a delicious food. And, you know, kind of releasing some of the mindset that I was holding, you know, mucus forming foods and these are going to be more addictive. And, you know, next thing you know, you're going to be eating Doritos or whatever. I have a different mindset, a different mission, and I already know why I want to eat healthy foods. So it's not some people, if they let one thing in, like Lissa won't have one steamed flowerette of broccoli, not one sliver of steamed carrot, because she just knows as soon as she lets anything in, she knows her own personality. She's like, it'll be over for me. I'll just want to have that more and more. And, you know, she's experienced that within her life. You know, that's part of her journey. But for me, I'm like, you know, I have no problem having some steamed vegetables, you know, maybe once a week. Or if I want to have like some rice and lentils and make a curry sauce for the rice and lentils, it's not going to throw me from my mission of staying someone who eats predominantly raw foods. So it's just awesome that there are some of the raw options in this bundle. And it's really neat to see some of the other creators and what they've made. Like we tore our stove and our oven out and we built a microgreen rack there. So we have no way to even bake bread. But, and, you know, it's probably a good thing because I, you know, with Julia's book, I'd be like, you know, I'm like, well, that bread's gone. I have to make some more. But whatever the case is, there's so many things in the bundle. Let me just actually, I downloaded everything. So yeah, whoever hasn't got the bundle, go get the bundle and then download everything right away. That way you're not missing anything. The power of herbs and spices, I think is going to be really, really fascinating too. And I think that you mentioned, about them, Bruce and Mindy. I know I'm just like you know, it can be kind of overwhelming in a way.
We can look at it as you talk too.
Yeah, so I just opened up my downloads. Oh, cool, you've got it there. Yeah, Amanda Sick. Oh, she's another one. We've made a couple of her recipes. She's got a dessert book in there called Want a Date, and they're just delicious.
What a cute name, Want a Date.
Yeah, right. Delicious date-based desserts, which after we get off, you and I'm going to make another one of her recipes because we like to have some desserts in the freezer. That way, you know, when it's dinner time, we take that out of the freezer, we have our dinner, and then we've got a little dessert that we can have if we don't want to have banana ice cream. Yeah, Doctors Rick and Karen, they have their, oh, I remember what the other one is. It's the rap class, or so we have a school community. It's called Raw Food Romance, and that's our co-ed school community. And I mentioned earlier that I have my Full Mast Empire men's community, which is essentially the same sort of model because, you know, our whole thing is raw food education and teaching people how to make these sorts of foods. So in the bundle, we also have the live classes from our Raw Food Romance. So we show how to make our wraps, which is essentially like a 3-hour class. We make the chickpea mash because when, you know, in school, we're hanging out, we're not in a hurry, and we hang out and, you know, answer questions and just have a fun time. There it is, the retreat treats, or the raw advantage retreat treats. That's going to be fun to tap into. I love Chris's stuff. I know. Yeah. Lost and Found right there. See, there's just so many amazing books in here. And it, you know, I mean, it would be cool to have more time before the bundle when we have this to actually go through and start making a lot of the things. There's so many things. And I feel like how you had said too, certain people, they're just drawn. You see the title or the
Mhm.
picture, and you're just drawn to it, and you tap in, you go into it. And it's really an amazing
This right here, this
symbol.
picture, crack,
Oh yeah.
spread, repeat, that you have on the
Yeah.
cover. Yeah,
Yeah.
that drew me in. An incredible picture. And I asked Lissa, because Lissa has a photography background. I said, "Did you
Yeah.
do those pictures in Nate book?" And she said,
No.
"No, you did them." So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I did throw those images into Lightroom, and I did increase, the saturation slightly. It was still really red. I didn't increase it too much, but it's because of the beats, right? But yeah, any of the pictures that we put into our recipe books, we do alter them slightly with some color grading, a little increase the saturation slightly, that sort of thing. But yeah, so the raw vegan culinary techniques, and I think we passed the other one, but the classes are our wrap class, our tostada class, and a kale chip class. And though that's kind of a little preview of what it's like in raw food romance. We actually have a class we're doing tomorrow, and that's going to be really fun. We have a really good time in there. It's just so fun, and me and Lissa, we're like, well, we'll never retire and we'll never be bored because there's constantly things to create, and we have a lot of people out there in the world that need help, and we all can assist in that. And that's what's so amazing, and I feel so honored to even be a part of this circle, this community, this niche of health and wellness, because there's brilliant souls like yourself, everything that you went through, what makes Val, like, why is, you know what I mean? We all have our stories of why we are doing what we're doing and why we create these sorts of things to put out into the world. It's not just to sell a product. Like, we want to have impact on people's
Yes.
lives,
Yes.
right? And so we share what it is and it's just so awesome, right? It's just so amazing. And I know I'm like looking through here because what I say, download the bundle, put it in a separate folder, get all the pieces in the folder. I labeled mine 2026 Vegan Health Bundle download, so I know where it's at. And then, of course, you can back that up. You have them forever, which is so cool. And I've got all the bundles from the previous years, and we'll tap in once in a while. It's easy to get into, you know how it is. I'm sure it's the same. You have your fallback that you know by heart, your fallback 5, Lissa calls it, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have this for dinner. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to break out a recipe or whatever, because recipes for some people, especially nowadays with attention spans getting shorter, like I feel like people's attention spans are like goldfish on crack anymore, and it's overwhelming for people to make a recipe sometimes. But we tell people, like, just read through the recipe one line at a time, get the visualization, and then you just execute. You just do it. It's like, you can't go wrong. If the recipe's written correctly, you're going to have a great outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love food. I adore food. My mom tells the story I was 9 years old when I created my first recipe. I don't remember that, but she likes to
I
tell
love
that
that.
story. And I've been in the food industry since I was 17 years old. I mean, and what I love about vegan, whole food, my background in macrobiotics, the possibilities are endless. So I've been teaching
Endless.
classes for 29 years. I still am coming up with brand new recipes that I get excited about all the time because the possibilities are endless. You just keep creating. And so I wanted to draw back to attention your contributions because I did make notes. I love that you said to pay attention how you feel when you eat the food, not just to symptoms. Oh, this was pay attention not just to symptoms, but patterns, patterns in your life. Pay attention to how you feel. And the logo at the end of the book, your full Mast, I don't remember what it's called, but you have like a logo at the end.
Right. The
That
Full Mast Empire. Yeah.
Empire. What a powerful word. It looks like a family crest.
That's right.
Like an ancient crest. It's so cool. And the pictures in this book are nature. They're absolutely beautiful. You didn't put page numbers on it, but my favorite is the silver moon, the sliver of a moon over the
Mm.
trees at twilight.
Oh yeah, I put the pages in the table of contents, but now that you point that out, I don't have page numbers on the actual page. What a silly goose.
Yeah.
Yeah, darn it. That's the last thing that you do creating a book is like
Yes.
put the pages in. And I have it linked like in the table of context for the table of contents. But yeah, dang it. Oh, you brought that to my attention. Of course, now people download the book. They have it with no pages. But if you open it up in your, whatever you're reading it through, the pages are labeled. But yeah, so you're saying the
I'm
crested.
telling you, like when you write a cookbook or a book, or this, you can go over it and you can proofread it and you can have
Mhm,
people proofread it for you and you
mhm.
hit the print button and you print it. There's always a mistake in it. There's
Always.
nothing you can do
Yeah.
about it. So you
Oh my gosh.
just let it go.
So
Did,
that page is
did
on
you take
page
those pictures?
35. It's
Yeah,
on
did you take,
35.
are those pictures in there ones you took of nature?
That one of the moon is. The other ones, all of the other pictures are pictures that I pulled off of Canva.
Okay. They're
Mhm.
all beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah,
And how did you
I had
create that crest?
the crest was a that was AI.
Oh, I don't like AI. I hate AI, but it's beautiful and I like what you created.
Yeah, I told AI like, I mean, I went through probably like, I don't know, maybe 8 different variations to get
Yeah.
that crest the way that it is. Because I wanted the Celtic, I wanted those letters to be Celtic in between, tied together. And yeah, I just wanted that shield. I wanted some kind of a logo, but yeah, that was all just off of chat GPT. Pretty incredible.
I think what you're doing, with your empire to have a man's community is fantastic. And there's two other books in the bundle. Chuck Carroll's Lost and Found: Hope and Healing Through Medical Mystery, his
Yeah.
journey. And then what's the other one? Tim Kaufman,
Tim
Escape, Break
Kaufman's.
Free from Self-Made Prison. And
Yes.
so
Oh,
I just love that we've got these healing books in there, again, male energy in the bundle.
yeah. Yeah. We need more guys, man. That's what I've got a couple of guys that I'm coaching right now, and they're in the Full Mast Empire, and they're one is 65, the other one is 33.
Oh,
And both
wow.
of them are just like, I'll do whatever it takes, Nate. Just tell me what I need to do. And I was like, all right, it's going to be pretty radical. You're going to be eating fruits and vegetables. Can you handle that? Like so it's fascinating how a lot of us as humans, we have to be like, we have to have a why for sure. What is the why? Why are we in this space where we're even tapping into this kind of information? And when that why is really strong, and so hopefully for some people, they're not, I mean, both of these individuals that I'm coaching, they're being admitted into the hospital. The
Oh,
33-year-old for hypertension, super high blood pressure, like going to have a heart attack at any moment kind of
mm,
numbers. And then the other guy, he's got prostate cancer and digestive issues, and just living how it's just kind of it's just fascinating. Like the body responds to these foods.
yes.
That's what's so fascinating is I tap into all kinds of different things, that I like conspiracy stuff. And
I
there's
do
this,
too.
it's fun, it can be fun. Of course, we got to protect our energy, right? But
Yeah,
you've probably heard about the simulation theory, right?
absolutely.
That
Yes.
this is a simulation that we're living in.
Yes.
And I love the concepts of that, certain aspects that, in the sense that if this is a simulated reality and everything is a code, it's written into the code, then it's written into the code that these plants will have the effect on the body.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, but then we have, say, processed foods or the energy of, say, eating more animal flesh. Like if people are like, there's people we follow pages like Carnivore Cringe, and we see the problems that these individuals have. Like there's karma. The energy, if it's written into the code that these plants will heal the vessels, and these these animals and the flesh of these products will damage. It's just so fascinating, the concepts of that, that it's not very hard to picture. And then, the symbiotic relationship of it all is so fascinating too. Like, you eat the fruit, right? Let's say, and you eliminate the seed, right? And it goes into the earth. It grows into a new plant that gives you hundreds more. If it's a fruit, maybe it grows into a tree, and you have, how an apple tree is. Like,
Yep.
I'm sure it's up there in Michigan. When
Yep.
people grow a garden, everybody's like, can you just take the zucchini, take the tomatoes? We have too many. And it's fascinating that it's written into the code. If we're looking at it from a simulated, perspective, that this is a simulation, it's written into the code that the plant cleans the soil, right? The roots, healthy soil, and then the plant gives us oxygen, right? That's what we inhale. And then what we exhale, the plant inhales. And it's just so fascinating, the symbiosis of it. And you can't necessarily take not necessarily, that's not the right word. You cannot take a pig's leg and slam it into the ground and it's going to grow more pigs, right? But you can take a bamboo shoot, or a seed, and it grows into, it's just so fascinating. So when we think of energy, it just makes such perfect sense. It's so crystal clear that we're either going to be feeding on energy that is dead and stagnant and has just all kinds of funk that it responds in the body, and we see it out in the world. Like, there's another reason why I wanted to really focus on men's health and full mast, because dudes, that's like one of the things that we want as guys. We want good circulation, man. We want good blood flow. And so it's like, I want to grab people's attention, and it grabbed my attention talking to that good dude John. And when we look out there just in that aspect alone, and women can, of course, have these same kinds of issues as well. It's maybe not erectile dysfunction, but they have low blood flow, poor circulation, and they're affected the same. But I can't speak on a woman's physiology the same as I can a man's, and connect with a woman on the same way that I can connect with, hopefully, a guy. And when we look at the erectile dysfunction problem that we have, it's a $1 trillion industry. It's like $1.5 billion a year just in the States on medication. Worldwide is like 3 to 4 billion a year on erectile dysfunction meds, when we could just release the dogma, start to incorporate some of this information and this, these insights from other people who have been through things, and take the information in, and then make the food, make the recipe, follow the recipe, eat the plants. And it, more often than not, we see people are able to reverse all kinds of things. And of course, like you touched on, it's not just the food. There's a lot of other things that go into play, right? Self-talk and these sorts of things. It's just, all this stuff is just so fascinating. And Chris Wark, he was one of my very favorite, if not actually, if I were to think back at Plant Powered Party, his presentation was my favorite out of all, because of his story and just his energy. And, we've been following him for years, and, we're the same, we were born in the same year. And it's just so wild how hard it is for people to step out and to go against the grain. When you've got loved ones and family and doctors telling you you're a fool, it can be so easy to slip into a different mindset. And it's so fascinating. It's not like our family or friends they don't have our best interest at hand. They just don't know either. Right. And so I know we're at a really interesting day and age that we can share this kind of information. And I know this information has been there since the beginning of time, because there's been people who have eaten vegetarian. It wasn't vegan back then. They didn't want to eat animal flesh since the beginning of time. But it's fascinating how there is definitely a malevolent force. I can't say it any other way. A malevolent force that is hell bent on diminishing the human. And we are we're bombarded with stuff every single day. So when we take our power back, get something like this tool, these bundles are amazing. People don't realize how much value's in there and how it can be life-changing. Like that one $14 book that I bought from Lissa changed my life. Like
Yes.
that book alone, right? It's so fascinating, but we have to have the why and we have to have the desire to
This this
change our ways.
this book cost $9.95 and it changed my life.
I got it written down here. I was going to order it because I really want to check that book out. And I had no idea about his story. And prostate cancer is something that is so prevalent in this day and age, right? People aren't eating enough fibrous foods.
Now,
So, and of course it goes deeper than just that, but that is a huge aspect.
yeah, I like to say all the time that there's a plant on the planet that will help your body heal from anything that you're suffering with. You just have to find that plant. And then I remember,
yeah, and the mindset too, right? Because it's interesting how sometimes we as people, we've noticed in this raw vegan space, and I'm sure you have too, for your 30 years of being in this space or even longer, there's people who identify with themselves being that person who has the disease. That's who they are.
I totally address that in my classes.
Yeah.
Don't claim your dis-ease.
Right.
I
Don't
talk
claim
about changing your words. Never ever say, I have arthritis. Say something like, my body is temporarily experiencing some arthritis pain. That's in one of the classes,
it's so
along
powerful.
with the recipes and the food. Yeah. I totally address that.
And it's a nice, go ahead.
You talked about earlier, and I just remembered about the hunting and how, it's acceptable or whatever. And it had, it's the way you're taught and everything, and it's brainwashing and where those thoughts come from and everything. One of the major places that they come from is TV, radio, and about 4 years ago, I stopped watching TV. Mm-hmm. What a huge difference. Yeah. What a huge difference. And now, if I'm around a place where the TV is playing, it's really hard. Mm-hmm. And especially the commercials. Every commercial says, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you. And if you are constantly bombarded with that message, there's something wrong with you, take this pill, it'll fix it. But the pill thing is frustrating in itself, but it's constantly, there's something wrong with you. There's something, and you need to get into a mind space that there is nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
And then the erectile dysfunction, sometimes when I'm in an area where the TV is playing, oh my God, so many commercials about that. And I'm thinking about, like, when I was a kid, I don't even think you could say those words on television. And nowadays, just everybody's talking about it. And here, take this pill, blah, 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 blah. And, I'm kind of like embarrassed, like, geez, you have a commercial? And that's kind of an embarrassing commercial you got on there. But it's all over the place. Take this pill. Take this pill. There's something wrong with you, or you're old. You're old. This is going to happen. You're old. This is going to happen. You're old. That's another thing that I will not say. I will not indicate that I'm old. I will not say, well, that's just going to happen to me because I'm getting old. I won't say those words. And I tell my friends that I'm 35 years old. I'm not 35 years old, but that's what I tell everybody, because I'm sticking at that age, and I'm not going with this mind flow that, the longer you're on the planet, this is going to happen to you, and this is going to happen. No, it's not. It's absolutely not going to happen, because I don't have that mindset. And one of, like, the major places it comes from is the television and everything like that. And I know it's entertainment, but you know what I do? I turn on YouTube now. Mm-hmm. And I told Melissa, I love watching the history of old England, and she's from Scotland. So I also watch that. But, of course, healthy things, that's what I tune into, always healthy things. And you mentioned the simulation theory, totally into studying ancient civilization, long time ago, simulation theory, things like that. Now, do you know or follow Billy Carson?
I love YouTube?
Oh my God. Yes. I knew we had so much in common. I knew it. Yes.
There's aspects. So my gosh, it's so cool that you mentioned it, because, okay, so he talks about Enlil and Enki.
Yes.
The two
Yes.
brothers. And so it's like, I'll say, instead of saying like, oh, it's the hands of Satan, I'm just like, because Satan never killed anybody, but God wiped out everybody. There's all these aspects where you're just like, it makes you go, hmm. And so I'm like, oh, there's the hand of Enlil,
Yep.
because Enlil was the basic, if somebody's tuning in, what it is they, it's a break. You got to check out Billy Carson. Go check out Forbidden Knowledge and check him out.
Yes.
And seeing, he articulates stuff so well because this is what he geeks out on. This is what he's been studying, and how, the Emerald Tablets is what his passion has been for all these years. And it's fascinating, like, supposedly the way the story goes, because who knows any of this kind of stuff, but it's just kind of fun to entertain. And you can see it when we can all connect the dots however we want. But there was a breakaway civilization. They interbred with the humanoids on the planet, and they wanted to create a race, which supposedly that's who we are. We're like part of this race. And of course, we're all of the, we all have the divine spark. We are part of the infinite, all that ever was, all that ever will be. But it's fascinating how in the Garden of Eden, Adam was the very first human that actually was successfully genetically produced. And Lil wanted to keep that person, unconscious. But Inky, the more positive brother, saw something in the human, because they said that, humanoids were more spiritually advanced, to where the Anunnaki, were earthlings. Anunnaki is, these people from another space. They were more technologically advanced, but Inky saw something in the human. And so he told Adam, like, hey, you hold the same consciousness that we do. You are just as powerful as us. And that really pissed off Enlil. And Enlil made it his life's mission to do anything and everything they can to diminish us and to keep us locked out of our true potential and who we are. Now, that's a fascinating story in the sense that we can see the hand of this Enlil, this more evil side, all throughout history, humanity, right? These control structures and, the bloodlines and all of this stuff is so fascinating. It's hard to not see it when you have it laid out for you. And Billy Carson does a really good job at describing.
Do you follow Randall Carlson?
I have heard of Randall Carlson. I don't. I'll have to check him out. Randall Carlson.
And Matthew LaCroix.
Yeah. LaCroix. He's yeah.
You got to watch the studying of ancient, the way the earth was ancient.
And then there's
long time ago.
There was Max Egan. My kind of awakening was 2001, right? September, we know. And after that, I think I was 23 years old at the time. And I was like, what the heck is even going on? How is this even possible? You're telling me that the military strong arm of the entire world got ran into by a plane, the Pentagon, right? Like, no way. What is really going on? And from that point, I wanted to know everything that there was to know about anything and everything. Give it all to me. Occult stuff, crop circles. I want to know it all. Like, to just kind of like see what's really going on. Then, of course, we got to protect our energy. Sometimes it could be, when you're going through kind of an awakening, you're like, this is horrible. This is wretched. And sometimes this is, we have suicide rates that are through the roof. And it's fascinating stuff, but it's also, we got to be careful because some of these people like Max Egan or David Icke.
David Icke. Yeah. I listened to some of his stuff. He's really far out there, but I do listen.
He's far out there. And, you're like, 8 hours of just doom and gloom. And then, at the end, it's like infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is an illusion. It's like, I want some more of, but to remember, right. To remember the story, Billy lays it out really great. I love Billy's energy, and, everybody's kind of bringing their own little piece to these, everybody's a part of the whole, we all hold a piece of the puzzle.
Nate, hold on a sec. Mm-hmm. I love this conversation and I want to continue it, but I have to use the bathroom. So I'm going to mute myself and you keep talking about this because this is wonderful.
Okay. Do it. Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen anything from Billy Carson, check him out. Forbidden Knowledge. And of course, who knows if this stuff is actually even real, right? These are stories. But what's interesting is he takes these stories we all have access to it. He tells you how you can get access to these sorts of things from the emerald tablets. And I just can't help but to picture that those stories hold some really profound truths, because we see in this world, there's a strong force on this planet that really has it out for us. And you can see it. You can almost see it in every single aspect, like how Val was talking about the commercials. We've got all these problems. Well, here's something to, something's wrong with you. Buy our thing. This is going to fix, you'll feel better when you buy the thing. If you've got a problem, just take the medication. But as like, where's the solutions, right? We have these, we have the solutions to a lot of the things, but a lot of it's getting muted. Like you had talked about, the guy was blacklisted, and it's that to me would be another sign of Enlil, because Enlil's tribe doesn't want those messages to come out, that we have the potential to heal ourselves and to become more powerful than we could even imagine. And it's all fascinating stuff. And of course, when you get into, there's a lot of people that just want to stay asleep. It's easier to stay asleep. It'd be so much easier. I mean, we live downtown Las Vegas. I mean, Liz and I wouldn't be together if we weren't on the same path. But if we were to be someone who is just asleep and we drank and gambled and eat out, like, man, we could have the most fun out there. There's so many places to go have a good time. But I used to drink and I'd go to the bars and I used to be in a band, and it just is boring. It's the same conversations. And, we're talking about the remember wins or whatever. It's more exciting to help people realize their true potential, and then to connect with other people that help remind us of our true potential, because, we all have those negative and redundant thoughts.
Now, you guys live in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And so I know that the state is beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
But as you mentioned, there are a few places that I have no desire whatsoever to ever go to. And one of them is the middle of Vegas with all those casinos, bright lights, and loud noise.
Yeah. Definitely.
The energy of that, like, I go to nature whenever possible. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan is my all-time favorite place, but I have to drive 5 hours to get to the bridge and then go up there, and it's just wilderness, less people. I mean, you can just, when you go up there, you just hike, and it's just
it's the best.
Beautiful.
It's the best.
It's wonderful.
Part of me, I mean, I used to blow glass for a living. For 15 years, I had my own glass blowing company. And I would come to Vegas for the trade shows, and I hated it. Like, Vegas is so gross, but I didn't get to go see nature. We were just down on the strip. Now, this is the last place in the world that I ever thought that I'd be living. But living here, this is our Vegas chapter, and very possibly we might stay here forever. Like, we both Liz and I are like, this might be the spot we, live the rest of our lives. I mean, the world-class entertainment is fun. And part of me is like, I like the concept of keeping one foot in the real world, in the sense of being able to be around the chaos. And it's a nice perspective to look around and be like, yep, these are all our ideal clients. We need to help people. Look at these people that are having mad issues. They're having a great time, but I totally feel you. And that's why we go out to, do our self-care Sunday hikes every Sunday, because we have to go recharge, because we are right downtown. Las Vegas Boulevard and Fremont Street is where we live. Like, there's a lot of and tonight's Friday night. It's going to be so loud till like 4:35 in the morning, right? This is definitely not a place for the majority of the people. And people always trip out that we're here. Like, why would you guys even want to live there? But
But then you go for your hikes. And like I said, on Instagram, Melissa was sharing, I think it was your anniversary, and they were just the cutest pictures ever. But the background was just, I don't know where you were in the mountains or desert. It was just gorgeous.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, really, 4-hour arm's length, or drive in any direction. We could be in Grand Canyon, Sedona. We could be on Venice Beach. We could be out in Zion.
Yeah, the Grand Canyon. How many times have you been there?
We've been there a few times. Yeah. It's
Nice.
really beautiful. It's Grand Canyon's a trip. I mean, and that's another real when you get into the conspiracy stuff and you realize like how much of the Grand Canyon they have it you
You
can't
can't,
go.
there are places you can't go in the Grand Canyon. I
Yeah,
know.
there's people with fully automatics like
Yes.
protecting. So there's a lot. So I was going to tap into Max Egan. He's from Australia. He had this book called Earth's Forbidden Secrets.
Okay.
And you tap into these different things that we've built in the past. And it goes to show like some of these structures, there's no way, like we can't figure out how stuff was built
Yes.
with our technology nowadays. And so a lot of it kind of, I'm like, man, that must have been, that very possibly there's computers involved because the cuts are way too perfect. Like some of these cathedrals. And I mean, there's people that's where they focus. Their whole focus is trying to bring that information out,
Yes.
and there's so many things in the world to focus on. Listenized thing is like, well, we'll focus on raw food and try to help people eat more raw food. But all this other stuff is really fascinating.
Fascinating.
I don't know how to articulate it the same way, but
But
it's just,
you did a fantastic job with the story of Inky and what Billy Carson teaches. And
oh man,
Randall
yeah,
Carlson, you have to look him up. He's a
I'm
big
looking
guy
up.
with a big beard and everything. But he's an archaeologist.
Okay,
He studies rocks. He's a geologist.
yeah,
And he actually has talked about the Grand Canyon, and with his knowledge and everything and erosion and everything, he's trying to like figure
right.
out like how it was created a super long time ago. And yeah, Randall Carlson, he has really long videos. Some were like 2 hours and stuff. And
I
he
love it.
talks a lot about rocks and geology, which I'm sorry, I love rocks. And like you said earlier, it was so funny that people have this misconception. Vegan people have their crystals. Well, I have crystals and stuff, but I'm not like,
We
crazy
do
or
too.
anything. But
We do too. We're right there.
the energy of the rocks,
Yeah.
the energies of the
Oh, it's
crystals and
amazing.
everything.
You're
Yeah.
holding a mineral that
Yes.
is older than we can even fathom, right?
Yes.
It's so fascinating and the energy that it holds. But you know what I was saying, right?
Yes, I
Like,
know.
people are like, oh, I don't want to be a hippie. Dudes, hey, I don't want to be a hippie. I don't be a crazy vegan. And it's like,
And
yo,
it,
man, like you got low blood flow. Like you could probably do some good in incorporating some of these kinds of aspects into your life.
And here we go. There's no such thing as a coincidence because you've talked about being a hippie and everything. And
Randall, what?
you and being a hippie, right?
What's Randall's name? Last name?
Oh, Randall Carlson.
Carlson.
Yeah.
Carlson. I got to
Um,
write this down or I won't remember.
you and Melissa met each other at Woodstock.
Yeah. No, we didn't meet each other at Woodstock. We
Oh,
actually met each other.
You met her friend at Woodstock.
I met the first time that Lisa and I ever got together in person was Las Vegas.
Las Vegas. But the story goes, and
Yep.
it's not you weren't at the famous concert, but still the word is that you met her friend at Woodstock, which
Yep.
prompted the text message and the whole
Totally.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to message her. I was like, oh, thank you. Get me in because, I mean, she had like 16,000 followers on Instagram. This is back in 2017. So I was like, she's never going to message me back or whatever. Right. Probably. But oh man, it was so fascinating how it all went down. But yeah, our very first time we ever got together was in Las Vegas. And we get on the plane. She actually paid extra to fly to Portland. Right. Yeah. So we could fly from, I'm like, that'd be so fun if we could fly together to Vegas rather than meet each other in Vegas. So we actually met each other in the Portland airport, very first time we ever met each other. But we spent a week playing house, right, for those days in Las Vegas. And I brought my backpack with my Vitamix, just how I would travel to work with her recipe book, because of course, I'm trying to court her. I'm trying to woo her. Right. And I would imagine that would have been really amazing for her to be like, wow, look at this guy. Like he is because we got a Lyft ride, which is like an Uber or a taxi to the store. And we'd come back to our bathroom. Essentially, we're like, well, let's make the food in the bathroom, which I know that could be sounding gross to people, but it was like there was no counter space. So we would just prepare our food on the big old bathroom counter. And it was so much fun. And when we were sitting, I would backpack with my bowl and my salad and the dressing and everything. So we were walking on the strip and we sat down and we're eating the salad. And she's just like, I love it here. And I'm like, we should move here, and it was years later before we moved here, but both of us love it's just amazing what we can build as humans. And of course, the lights and the gambling and all the negative connotation that Vegas has, it's understandable. And there's definitely, validity to that. But it's so fascinating that most people are here for a really good time. So the energy is different here than it is in other cities. And it's just like any other city. It's filthy. And, you can look at it from a different lens, and there has been times where I'm like, man, I can't wait to live somewhere else. I'd love to live, more deep in nature, away from noises and bus sounds and all that kind of stuff. Right now, it's kind of comforting because I grew up in a rural area. So Lissa grew up though in Edmonton, 100, a million people. So cities to her feel comfortable. It's what she knows.
Yes.
And who knows where we'll be, but in the future. But it's fascinating to be where we are and to be the kind of people that we are. And I feel that one thing that we hold within ourselves is just to show people, to try to inspire them. You don't need to be in the tropics because, as a raw vegan, that's kind of the connotation that's, like, well, if you're a raw vegan, you're going to move to the tropics where you've got all the delicious fruit. And we have friends in the tropics. They're like, man, we don't have access to like the stuff that you guys have access to. And I was like, wow, you guys are like in the tropics even, you're in Puerto Rico or Costa Rica. Of course, they have amazing foods, but we do have, some of the best foods are shipped to Las Vegas because it's like one of the top entertainment capitals of the world. So it's a really fascinating place to be. And yeah, we're surrounded by some of the most amazing landscapes. It's not very, 30 minutes, you're out in Red Rock and you'd never even know you were in Las Vegas, and it's
nice.
absolutely incredible. The desert I grew up in the desert. So, and I spent 30 years in Southern Oregon, which is a lot like Michigan, evergreens and rivers and lakes. But I grew up from 3rd grade to 10th grade in the Mojave Desert. So my kids, they're like, why are you there? And I'm like, well, I kind of feel like I came home in a way, I'm back in the desert. This is where I grew up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of beauty everywhere, really. And, no matter where you go, there you are. I like that saying, no matter where you go, there you are. So, if you love yourself and you love your life, no matter where you go, you're going to have a great time. Yeah.
So this has been an amazing conversation. I don't know anybody else who follows forbidden knowledge, and I can have a conversation about this. This is amazing.
Let me stop you right there. This is how I knew Lissa was going to be able to, that I was like, all right, I think I can hang. Because I was with my partner for 25 years and I did not want to get married again. I was like, I need to be by myself for a while. I got together when I was 15. So, I'm like, but I knew who I was and what I wanted. And at 11 years old, my uncle, they were brothers. One was an air traffic controller at LAX, and the other one was an air traffic controller on a, what do you call them? Forgot the name of them. The big ships that have all the planes that fly on to them. I forgot the name of it.
Military or something?
Yeah, military. He was in the Navy, aircraft carrier.
Okay.
So he was a air traffic controller on an aircraft carrier. The two of them were drunk one time at Thanksgiving. I was 11 years older, my grandparents' house. And I remember them telling me, we were sitting out, like it was just the two of them. And I sat down, because I wanted to mingle with my uncles, And they're like, Nate, everything's a lie. The world is flat. They basically, like in a nutshell, they told me, the world is not what you think it is. It's flat. And they were having the flat earth. They were having their own flat earth conversation. And that really kind of made me think. I was like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, how does the water stick on this ball that's spinning 1,000 miles an hour? And you start asking these questions. I'd ask my teacher and everybody just shut you down. So I just put that baby to bed, whatever, And it wasn't until I became a crazy raw vegan that I started to tap into that line. And when I got together with Lissa, we were in Canada, and a friend of ours was like, you should check out Eric Dubé. And we're like, okay, we'll check out Eric Dubé. He's, he is the head of the International Flat Earth Research Society, which is different than the Flat Earth Society because, there's that evil hand is always trying to make things whatever. And who knows whatever. If there's a simulation, it doesn't matter what shape it is. But what I wanted to say was me and Lissa sat there and the two of us were just like on the bed watching a 6-hour flat earth documentary together, both being like, whoa, that's crazy. That kind of makes you go, we were learning about Antarctica and Admiral Byrd and NASA and all these things. And I looked at her and was like, yeah, I think I could dig this girl, because my ex, no way would she even look at it. Ignorance is bliss. I couldn't even, she'd just get frustrated, and it's understandable, totally understandable. I'm a nut, as you could tell, and the people watching, like I'm kind of out there. But she hung with me for 6 hours on that flat earth documentary and just had the same kind of questions I did. And I was like, I think you're the one. Like, I can really get on with you. So we have always tapped into these different things, and it's just fascinating stuff.
Yes, it is fascinating stuff. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, don't tell the other people in the bundle, but this has been my favorite conversation all week long with the bundle participants.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So click the link. Click the link to get the bundle. You got to get it before February 22nd, Sunday. This is a tremendous, tremendous deal. Over $4,500 worth of merchandise for $49. 70 different items. And I love the way that Nate explained, that you download everything, you get everything like forever. And if you wanted to, I like to say, like, you're giving yourself a gift for a year, if not longer. But you have this download, and once a week, you just pull it up and you open something new and you explore it and you look at it. And it's like a gift to yourself all year long. You're giving yourself multiple things. You can open it up. I mean, seriously, there's something in there for everybody. And what I love is that you may not even realize that there's something in there. That's why I would say buy the bundle, and then don't do it right away, but just randomly, hey, I'm just going to open this and look at it, because you're going to find something. Some things you may go, well, you know what, that's not for me, and that's okay, because there's 70 things in there. But the next thing that you click on that maybe you wouldn't even think you'd click on is amazing. And I love talking to people like you, in the bundle, because you've mentioned other things that are in the bundle that I need to check out. Like when Melissa told me that you guys had tempeh in that book, because I had looked at her other books and I looked at your book, but now that's the one I'm going to focus on. That's going to be my goal, although I have to get the equipment to make it. But that would, because that now I have a recipe. Before that, I didn't have a recipe.
Do you have an Instapot?
No, I don't.
Okay. Instapot will be great, because you can just make it on the yogurt setting. And we go through the techniques, everything that we've learned, because we've, messed up multiple batches. But yeah, Instapot is a really incredible piece of equipment.
I don't know. Like, I use my stove for everything, but that's okay. Yeah. That's okay. I want to make the tempeh, so that'll be something that I'll look forward to. All right. So where can people follow you? Instagram, or what's a great place? Tell everybody, how to follow you.
Yeah, excellent. So I'm most active on Instagram, but I have made it my mission the turn of the year, which of course, you get into the natural moon cycle where, the new year hasn't even got here yet. Right. But either way, like back in November, I started to do daily videos on YouTube, and I really want to focus more of my energy on YouTube. So YouTube is a great place. They can come to my YouTube channel, Raw Natty Nate. Actually, I think I changed my name. It's Nate Maris on YouTube. But if you look up Raw Natty Nate, that'll probably pop up. Raw Natty Nate on all the socials. Facebook, Instagram. I'm not really active on TikTok or Snapchat, but I do have stuff on there. It's all Raw Natty Nate. Raw Natty Nate. And if they go to my Instagram profile, once the bundle's over, I'll have my associate tap link back in there so they can connect with me through email and the different things like that. In the full Mast, of course, you could find the school group if that's something that interests you, or if you're a woman listening to this and you got a guy in your life who you're trying to nudge, send him my way. I'm gonna do my best to help this guy out, But yeah, that's how they can find me. Is Raw Natty Nate on all the socials. And yeah, definitely excited to put more to build more YouTubes. I feel like YouTube is such a great place to share. And as you can see, I mean, the two of us, like we love to talk. I'm, a pretty long-winded person. So I'm like, I need to get into the long form content, more long form.
Yeah, and sometimes, the ancient history stuff that you and I were talking about, sometimes those videos are 2 and 3 hours long where they're talking
Yeah.
about, the geologists and the rocks form, and
Yeah.
I just break it up, but I still listen to it because it's
I
so
love it.
fascinating.
Yeah, I'll download. Sometimes when we drive to Oregon, it's a 12-hour drive. So we'll listen to like Jim Rohn or Bob Proctor or, Napoleon Hill, different people like that. Then we'll tap in and listen to a whole couple podcasts of Billy Carson talking. And it's just, kind of breaks up the drive. Yeah, that's so cool that you know who Billy is. And of course, he's really well known in a lot of ways, and his story is really fascinating too. And I love, the empowering aspect of what he brings. Like we are our own saviors. We have the potential to do magnificent things when we just get out of our own ways and we realize that. And of course, we can all help each other, remind each other of that in our own ways, because we're magnificent as human beings. And we have the spark of the infinite, all that ever was, all that ever will be. We
Yes.
don't need to diminish ourselves, right? And of course, if everything is energy, when we clean the conduit, this energy can flow through us a little bit better. And cleaning the conduit is standing up and seeing that we're being played big time. Yeah.
All right. So click the link, get the bundle, go follow Nate, because as you can see, he's an amazing person with an incredible story. Oh, and I am definitely, because I asked Melissa, when I have time, I am going to watch that interview that was you guys' first interview together, because that would be really cute to see.
Yeah, I'll send you the link. I can send it to email, so that way you don't have to go search for it.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you might be able to just YouTube it. Raw Food Romance
Yeah.
Love Story.
Yeah.
I think Raw Food Romance Love Story.
I'm
Yeah.
subscribed to her channel too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think if you just type in love story, it should pop up. But yeah, it's the first interview, where she's
Oh,
asking me.
you and Melissa, I told her this yesterday too. One of you got to write your next book to tell that story, your love story, how you met, what happened. That's got to be in a book form. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I have it actually written in my Inside Scoop book, which is an ice cream book. I have the full story written in that book. But yeah, we should have one dedicated towards just that alone.
I mean, I don't like,
'Cause
I'm just like off the top of my head, but wouldn't it be cool if like it was a book that had your side of the story and
exactly. I
then
was just going to say
Melissa's
that.
side of the story all
Yep,
in
I
the
was just gonna
same
say,
book?
because with the Inside Scoop, it's just my perspective as opposed to if we did one together, she'd have her side of things. Because yeah, it's all so fascinating, the different things that we go through in life and where we come. And I mean, I feel so blessed to be with someone like Lissa. She's so magnificent. She is just so brilliant and she's so beautiful. And I say, I'm like, I don't know how a dope like me ended up with a woman like you, but I must have done something right in the previous life or something. But she's like, don't talk to my husband that way, about my husband that way, but it's just kind of, sense of humor.
Well, that was
Yeah.
just absolutely beautiful what you just said about Melissa.
She's absolutely incredible. I cannot even begin to express like how grateful and blessed I feel to be with someone like her. And it's really tricky because there's a lot of people who are really lonely and they're trying to find their person or whatever it may be. And of course, it's easier said than done. Like, there's this, like, oh, just love yourself and take yourself out to dates and dinners and stuff. And, there's a lot of people who are experiencing, a lot of hurt and pain. And this is where, I mean, I feel because I've got some friends who are single and they really are having a hard time finding their person. I'm like, maybe, because I really do feel like we have multiple soulmates and we definitely have multiple life mates, people that we could actually, band together and be life mates. Maybe it's not intimate, but you support each other, you help each other, you go have fun together. So yeah, I feel really blessed to have met someone like her. And she's like what did she say? She's like, I'm so glad I found you. And I'm like, no, I found you. Like I found, you didn't even know who I was before I found you. But it's really cool. And I know it's just, I feel so excited in so many ways at life, the life ahead of us and what we're going to be creating and what we can share. And the mission is just to help people. It's so simple, right? Just eat more raw and living foods. You don't have to cut it all out, be a completely 100%, because there's a lot of people like, I can't be 100% raw. And we're like, hey, you don't have to be 100% raw. But, of course, we want everybody to be vegan. Come on, let's make that connection. We don't need that into our life. We shouldn't be promoting that kind of stuff. We got to shift it. And of course, these big corporations, they just want our money. So if we're
Yes.
voting for something different, that's why we're seeing so many different plant-based options out there, milks and cheeses and butters and creams and ice creams and breads and chips and all the funk, because these corporations just want the money. So yeah, I know we could go on and on, me and you, Val. I know it.
Yeah. This has been a great conversation. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. Likewise, for sure. Well, we'll
Click the
connect.
link. Click the link. Click the link to the bundle.
Yeah, grab it, you guys. You got to get it. I mean, shoot. It's just, there's going to be something in there for everybody. It is
Yes.
somebody broke it down the other day. They're like, that's like 66 cents per item. What do you sell if you were to sell your product that you contributed, how much would you sell that for?
$140.
$140. We contributed over $300. I think it's $301, right? Like the plant powered party, just those lectures alone, I believe are $150. Like it's just absolutely wild how great of a deal it is. $49. Somebody else messaged too. They're like, oh, that's a screaming deal. That's like $4 a month. It's like, yeah, that's a good breakdown. $4 a month, right? And you have there's more information and recipes than you'll ever know what to do with in there. Not to overwhelm you, but there's so much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Val.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for watching. Greatly appreciate it. And we're going to end our conversation here. So, everybody,